Radhe Radhe. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. May this be an offering to Sri Radha Krishna. And as we await our first guests to arrive, allow me to set the intention for this space as being a welcoming, all-inclusive environment open to everyone, regardless of background, identity, orientation, etc. Hello, Aquarius lady. Hello, Asma. And thank you for blessing us so early on with a heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. I trust that those who are joining now are as well as they can be, given whatever circumstances may be prevailing in your life at this time. May we come together as fellow students of life, here to relate in one another's experiences, share positive sentiments, and uplift each other. Namaste, Sky Guardian. Hello, Gregard G. Hello, Chloe Evans. Thank you, KK. And hello, Kimmy. Radhe Radhe. Since you all are so early, you all get to entertain me. How? By answering my question of the day. Which is something you know I like to start my lives with. Today I am wondering from you all, what is something you want to work on? It could be a personal project, your magnum opus, or even something small. It could be your degree, or maybe it's something about you, about your body or your mind that you wish to refine. Perhaps it is some character trait, some talent. Maybe it is an insecurity. There are many ways to interpret this question, and all of them equally valid. And hello, Lilith. I am sorry to hear that you are sad, but I am very happy to have you here. Hello, Cornbread. And you share that you want to work on your sleep schedule. I've definitely been there. You know, I used to sleep all day. And I'd wake up when the sun was setting, and I'd go to sleep after it already rose. And thank you, Tattvamasi, for your quartet of roses. Jai Sitaram. Asma, you want to work on your procrastination. I like that. Sky Guardian, you want to work on not getting annoyed when someone has different opinions. You're guilty of it with me, with Om. That's quite alright. Anna Kristen, thank you as well for your pair of roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Danny Boy, thank you for your pair of cloud breads. And a tiny diny. Yippee! Salutations, Anna. Radhe Radhe Masa. Trudy, you share that you want to work on patience. What a wonderful thing to work on that is. Chloe Evans, you want to work on being less grumpy when you go to work. I'm happy to hear that. Aquarius lady, you want to work on being able to face challenges in your life. Bravery, confidence, determination. Glad to hear it. Lilith, you want to work on the people you choose to bring in your space. You always choose people who aren't kind. It is important to associate with people that have your back and are there for you. Definitely. And I shall manifest that for you in whatever capacity I have. And Gregard G, you want to work on love for yourself. It's easy to give, difficult to receive. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. And I'm happy to hear that, G. I always help with your existential crisis. Well, that's good. It's a good turnaround from my old content, where after every video someone would thank me for giving them their daily existential crisis. Everybody loves Raven. You want to work on energetically healing Raven. Everybody loves Raven. So sweet. And hello Lex, you asked, how's the plant baby today? My Tulasi plant is very well nourished by today's rains. She seems happy so far. It is my first time pruning anything, let alone Tulasi Devi, so I hope my pruning hasn't caused her harm. Masa, you shared that you want to work on everything. I'm sure you'll get around to it, but one thing at a time, right? Alice, you share that you passed your driver's test today. Now there are so many opportunities opening up for you. You are no longer confined to one place. I love that for you. And I'm sure you studied and practiced hard for that. And Sunshine shares in response to those wanting patience, have children, you'll soon have patience. Lex, you share that you want to work on discomfort. That's very brave of you. Danny boy, you want to work on not trying to help everyone, especially those who take advantage. It can be an art form of sorts to selectively choose who gets your help, not because some people deserve it and some people don't, but so that your help can reach as deeply and as far as it can to those that will use it and propagate it, carrying on the torch of help and love. Small fries and a shake. You want to work on motivation. Gimme, you share. You want to work on not being so socially awkward in person. Hey, have confidence in your awkwardness. Don't be afraid to be that awkward person. I think awkwardness can be beautiful. And Sarah, you want to work on negative core beliefs that you rationally know are just simply not true. That's a very powerful thing to work on. And Chloe, you also want to work on meditation without listening to a video. And you've come a long way so far. And that's wonderful. Alex, you share humility. And Gardening Grey Garji, you remember talking about Tulasi yesterday. Is it stronger than normal basil? Stronger in what sense? I'm not sure. I know that some Tulasi plants grow up to be very hardy, and their stems are used to make Tulasi malas. Like the one I have here, which is a kind of wood, and perhaps you would not expect getting wood from a basil plant, and it is technically in a different category not that related to basil, but if this kind of strength is what you mean, then yes. Anna, you shared that you want to work on expressing feelings. I love that. And Chloe, you also add making friends, even though you want to be more vigilant. The best friends are those that empower our vigilance. And Dominique, you share that you have passed your training and become a full-time paramedic responder. And with that comes so many opportunities to help people and a lot of responsibilities. And I wish you well with all of those. And K2, you want to work on expressing yourself authentically. M, you want to stop being insecure and have yourself to land on. I love that. EB, you share you need to work on so many things. Dalipero, you want to work on trying not to allow yourself to worry too much about the future and live in the moment more. Usha, you want to work on your inner dialogue. Very relatable. Mercury, you want to work on the way you feel people's love, like you love and you care about them. But your comment got cut off. I think I understand. It's hard for you to feel that reciprocated, or perhaps feel like you deserve what is reciprocated, or that it's sincere. You question that. And that's a very powerful thing to come to, is acceptance of other people's love. Now, thank you, K2, for your quintet of roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Kiara, thank you for your rose. Radhe Radhe. And that is right, Sarah. Tulasi is the same as Tulsi. In Hindi, they often don't pronounce all of the syllables, just contract some of the consonants together. Known as holy basil here. But it's technically not a basil. It's, what is it? It's Ocimum tenuiflorum or something like that. But you planted so much of it. That's wonderful. It is the holiest of all plants. It is said that in India, all houses must be built around a tulasi plant. As such, many traditional households have a courtyard in their center dedicated for the tulasi. She is worshipped as the highest incarnation of God, of Goddess, Mother Divine. Ocimum, the plant that holds awe. That would be cool. I think it is Ocimum. Ocimum? Maybe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. My botanic knowledge is very limited. Alright. Now, I'm very happy to hear that there is so much potential within all of you that you are aware of and wanting to work towards. I definitely hope to empower you in your journey towards achieving that. I believe that it is possible for you. After I start my lives with the question of the day, and I thank you all for engaging in that, I like to open with a short reading. So I hope you'll join me for that. We're going to be reading a few pages from In Love at Ease, which is a new book that we've been reading through together. It concerns everyday spirituality with Pramukh Swami Maharaj. This was a spiritual teacher, a guru and president of spiritual organization known as BAPS, which is a kind of Hindu denomination which worships Swami Narayan, whom was a great being and worshipped as an incarnation of Narayan, Vishnu, in the turn of the 19th century. And we are recounting some stories from Pramukh Swami Maharaj's life through the eyes of many devotees, especially the author, Yogi Trivedi. The person who sent this book to me, Sky Guardian, one of our participants, they reached out to the author, Yogi Trivedi, and showed them that we were reading this, and they seemed very excited by that fact, which makes my heart just sing. Also, all the proceeds from this book go to support tribal education in India, which is lovely. So we're still reading through the introduction. This section is called The Book. I assume it's about this book, but we'll see. Could be about a different book. I was in Sarangpur on the 13th of August 2016, in the few hours after His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj had passed away. As a disciple and believer, I was confused. An entire generation of Hindus had only known Swami Shri as their guru, as the face and leader of the organization and community that they were a part of. Having been a journalist and adjunct professor of journalism, I was fascinated to analyze the media coverage of the passing away of one of India's most influential religious Hindu leaders. Despite how Gujarati his language and customs were, Swami Shri's reach extended well beyond Gujarat and the Gujarati diaspora. Hindus around the world knew of him through his travels, traditional Hindu mandirs, houses of worship, interactions with heads of state and world leaders, and understated but impactful humanitarian initiatives. More than 2.1 million people had traveled to that small village in the Kathiawad region of Gujarat over the course of 4 days to pay their final respects to Swamiji, or Swami Shri. Many of these people had never seen him while he was alive, but had been touched by his message of love and unity. Despite the overwhelming appreciation and outpour of reverence for Swami Shri's life and message, most of the media coverage of his passing away was highly regionalized in Gujarati and in Gujarat editions of the national Indian newspapers. I was astounded by the lack of front cover interest in the national editions. After all, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and much of the opposition leadership had flown into Sarangpur to offer their respects on the occasion. Major religious leaders, artists, musicians, and diplomats had found their way to this small village in Saurashtra. why was this not a story of national interest, even for reasons of marketability for the rest of the world? As a scholar and a biographer of Bhagwan, Swami Narayan, and Hinduism, I noticed the same was true for the overall messaging, literature, and theology of the Swami Narayan community. The community's poetry and theological treatises had not been shared in a way which would be accessible and palatable to the broader Indian or spiritual community. Most of what has been written about the community and Swami Shri has been written for and by the community, and Swami Shri has been written for... Wait. Did I read the same sentence again? And typically assumes Gujarati and sectarian familiarity on the part of the reader. There we go. There is not a single book focused solely on the Guru, his attributes, and his life's messages, which can be presented to a non-Swami Narayan, non-Gujarati, non-Hindu, English reader. The two books that come close are Transcendence, My Spiritual Experiences with Pramukh Swamiji in 2015 by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the former president of India, and Eternal Virtues in 2008. Dr. Kalam's book shares his interactions with Swami Shri and how he applied them to his life as a scientist and statesman. The latter is an English adaptation of a Gujarati book depicting Swami Shri's spiritual attributes, which presupposes reader familiarity with the community and Gujarati. The large English readership within the Swami Narayan community generally prefers this type of publication. More recently, the community is also documenting Pramukh Swami Maharaj's life through a 13-volume biography in Gujarati. An English translation of these 13 volumes is also underway. This book, however, is not that. I also realized that people did not write about Swami Shri after his passing away because not enough source material existed about him which was accessible to journalists and authors. Though his personal interactions, house visits, phone calls, and handwritten letters number in the millions, his life and message were not shared through published content outside of the Swami Narayan community. The community's focus on providing content for the fellowship impeded their ability to share Swami Shri's persona and lessons with the broader world that he so effortlessly impacted. This book may mark the first attempt to do just that in 100 years. The impetus for writing this book was personal as well as communal. The book is inspired by my interactions with my Guru, but furthered by my desire to share the lessons from these interactions with a broader readership across diverse communities. I wanted to continue building bridges like my Guru. It is a formidable attempt to take Swami Shri's life beyond the Swami Narayan community, Gujarat, India, and the Hindu diaspora. His life exemplifies how to live with others, with one's inner self, and in constant union with the divine. His life is spiritual, practical, religious, and at once worldly. These lessons are not just relevant to the Hindu, Indian, or Swami Narayan. They are timeless and universal. There are a number of ways that I could have organized this book, but I chose to divide it into 4 chapters. 3 incidents that I detail at the start of this chapter illustrate 4 major aspects of Swami Shri's life and interactions with others, which we read previously. Bhakti, devotion, and seva, selfless service. Aham shunyata, an I-less existence, an egoless existence. Samyam, embracing all, and sahajta, ease, playfulness, unpretentious spirituality. I dedicate a chapter to each of these pillars that made Swami Shri's spirituality accessible and humanly divine. Chapter 2 illustrates Pramukh Swami Maharaj's selfless love and service. It shares stories of the love between him and the divine. In all forms, he personified bhakti, selfless, genuine love for all of God's creation, for his Atman, the self, the true self, and for God and his Guru, spiritual teacher. Swami Shri saw the divine in everyone and everything, and treated them as such. This was the core principle of his bhakti and seva. Given the topic, it is naturally the longest chapter in this book, showcasing the multi-dimensionality, breadth, and depth of Swami Shri's love, and its application in the spiritual aspirant's everyday life. It is, thus, literally and figuratively the heart of this publication. Good evening, Sarah. Chapter 3 focuses on Swami Shri's bold and self-actualized identity, which lacked a towering ego or a sense of self-importance, a lack of explicit focus on his physical, professional, and religious identity. He focused on his self, Atman, more than he did on himself. This aham shunyata, or complete disregard and renunciation of one's ego, allowed him to share credit, motivate, and inspire people with his humility. Chapter 4 addresses Swami Shri's engagement with and embracing of people, irrespective of their caste, creed, color, ethnicity, gender, and religion. His passion for equality manifested through several important social reforms made to Hindu and Indian society during his lifetime. Swami Shri's eye for equality was driven by a passion to unite and bring closer together instead of dividing and fragmenting. Though he was a celibate, Swami Shri shared a spiritually intimate relationship with women and supported their questioning of an exclusively male-centric society. The sheer diversity of the people that Swami Shri impacted is a testament to his ability to embrace all. And in Chapter 5, I speak of Swami Shri's ability to live and inspire spirituality while being at ease. He did not perform or try to impress. He did not try to appear more knowledgeable or less vulnerable than the average person. His genuine, playful interactions with the world and the divine allowed for countless individuals to experience otherworldliness in his presence. Finally, Swami Shri's willingness to let go and embrace the next chapter of his life is the greatest lesson of spirituality for all people. This ease, comfort, and bliss, this Sahajanand, was rooted in his constant union with the divine. Before diving into these lessons of spirituality, however, I would like to provide the reader with a brief introduction and timeline of his life and work. This will be helpful to those unfamiliar with Swami Shri's background and his life's purpose. And as such, we will be answering the question, who was Pramukh Swami Maharaj, at a later time. For now, we will pause our reading there, and I thank you for listening. All right, and we may continue with our Sangha's regular format. If any of these words have inspired questions, or you feel motivated to share something from your life at this time, do be my guest here. You're very welcome, Gregorji. You also share that Pramukh Swami is in love with the world, and he portrays this easily. It very much seems like that in my limited experience also. And thank you, Isabella, for your subscription just before we started reading. Do allow me the honor of extending my gratitude back to you now, in full. I know it is a small gesture, and in reply, I offer you the small sticker pack that comes along with it, as I'm sure you know. And I always look forward to connecting with you deeper here and helping you in your spiritual journey in any way that I can. And in the process, I am helped as well. And Keys, thank you for your finger heart. Here's one back to you. Radhe Radhe. And Gregorji, you share that someone once asked what the book title was about. You are trying to figure it out. I think that last chapter explained it well. Yes, it's a very mysterious title, I will admit, isn't it? In love, at ease. What a good pair of words, at ease, to follow the first pair, in love. There is that love that you are within, immersed. But it's not a kind of love that provokes you. It puts you at ease. And Dan Hao Yu, thank you for your heart me. Janet, hello. You ask what helps to forgive. The realization that forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's for you to feel better. It takes weight off your whole nervous system. You accept what happened, not with a kind of validation, but an understanding that what is done is done. Now we have a chance to move on. We have a chance to grow from this experience. That is the heart of forgiveness. And Aquarius lady, thank you for your heart me. Jai Sita Ram. Friendster, you are apologizing for having no money? You certainly don't have to apologize for being in whatever circumstance you find yourself in, especially financially. If your intent is to express gratitude, and this is why you share, there are many ways to do that that don't cost you a single penny, that I would accept just the same. And thank you, Dob Darker, for your heart me also. Hari Om Tat Sat. And hello, Kristen. Nice to see you too. I am feeling well, and my day has been treating me well as well. How many times can I say well? You had a good day today outside? Glad to hear it. Got some fresh air? Maybe some sunlight? Mr. Astrolabe, you share that you made this for me with your fingers. A little rose emoji. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you, Kwame Gio. If I have pronounced that right. Happy to have you here. Oh well, well-being is well, says Dan Hao-yu. Indeed. Hello, Natalia. Angie, you ask, how do you reach my level of Zen? It's a good question. I can't take credit for my own Zen. That's the funny part. If I were to tell you all the things that I've done to come to peace, then I would be taking responsibility for it. But I think peace is a bit of a miracle. I have to thank the universe. And in that gratitude, I find even more Zen, more peace. As such, as I embark deeper on the spiritual quest, I realize that even the spiritual quest is not done by me. I am merely becoming witness to that, and that is yet another blessing that I have received. And maybe hidden in those lessons is a practical understanding that we must relinquish sense of control to feel the real peace at heart. And thank you, Keys, for your finger heart as well. Another one. Radhe Radhe. Chloe G, you asked for advice for someone who's feeling isolated. I find that in our English vocabulary, every word has a complement that conveys the same thing, yet is empowering. You could be isolated, sure, but perhaps you are also solitary. From one perspective, you're missing out on something else, but from another perspective, there is value in being alone. Know the difference between being alone and being lonely. When you're lonely, you feel like you're missing something. But when you're alone, you're abiding in your own presence. It is the perspective itself that makes the difference. If you see the value of your own company, then this moment is good for you. Mr. Astrolabe, you ask, can every moment be perfect when we have problems like pain? Or maybe you should say, can we experience perfection when we are suffering? Good question. In my experience, At first, it may seem like the way to peace is to minimize pain. The obvious problem of this approach is that, regardless of where you are in life, you are going to experience pain. Maybe when you become older, maybe you finally have that community that supports you, and you are in a place which is conducive to less pain. But we are all going to go through old age, disease, and death. Those things are very painful. There's no doubt about that. However, that's not to say we are destined for suffering, because all of those experiences can be very peaceful as well. It is a kind of peace that doesn't come and go like pleasure does, but we are immersed in, even when there is a sensation of pain, when there is suffering. Therefore, it is indeed possible to experience a kind of perfection despite our suffering. The key to understanding this is realizing that suffering is conducive for growth, given a certain perspective, as all things are. You learn so much in your happy moments as you do in your unhappy moments. And if you find real joy in learning, then there is a kind of joy to be found even when you are learning from difficult times, from challenges, adversity. You can have a conflict arise in your life and almost be excited to go through the process of engaging with it. Yes, you might come out of it with a few scars, perhaps. But those scars are also your certified badges that you've learned something new, and you now have a deeper understanding of whatever it is that you went through, and the emotions and thoughts and decisions that go along with those experiences. And G, you ask, in relation to me not taking credit for my own Zen. Am I a determinist? Interestingly, I am not a determinist, in that I recognize free will, but also the fact that some things that are done are not by us. There is a kind of non-doership. At the same time, there is something to take accountability for in our actions. And in the Bhagavad Gita, where is it? Krishna talks about this, I believe, in the 3rd chapter on Karma Yoga. Or perhaps it was a later chapter. The Yoga of Knowledge, chapter 4. Yes. Krishna asks, what is action? And what is inaction? Even the wise are confused regarding this. I will explain to you the true meaning of action, knowing which you shall be liberated from the spiral births and deaths in the material world. For verily, action has to be understood, and forbidden action has to be understood, and inaction has to be understood. The true nature of action is imponderable. One who recognizes inaction in action, and action in inaction, is wise among people, for they are transcendental, though engaged in performing actions. And we go into some details which we can talk about if you want. But note that there is truth to both determinism and free will simultaneously. And we can dive into that at your request. Zoe Natalia, you had mentioned a few minutes ago that horror and creepy things intrigue and excite you, but you wonder if it's unhealthy, though you find it fun. As long as it doesn't become an obsession. As long as there is a balance and you're not over-consuming such things, then of course that's fine. If, for example, you see the beauty in it, the art, if you see the important questions that are implicitly asked by breaking norms and social standards, then that exploration and discovery can be very valuable. If you feel like your subconscious is suffering though, that you are having nightmares and such, then that would be a good sign to compensate with some more uplifting media. But if you find it fun, that's quite alright. Thank you, Bobby. So I see you sent a heart me, a team bracelet, a cheer you up, and an extra cheer you up today. Jai Sitaram. Jossie Lynn, you had asked a minute ago or more that how do we deal with negative people? When you're surrounded by darkness, the best thing you can do is be a shining light. See, if you tried to take away the shadow, you're walking down a dirt road, and there you see all these shadows around you. You get fed up with this darkness, so you take out a shovel, and you start digging up the soil beneath the shadow. But every time that you dig another foot deeper, you find the shadow remains. And actually, it keeps getting darker. See, if we try to get rid of that darkness, we forget that darkness is an absence of something. Absence can't be made absent itself. You can't get rid of something that is missing. You have to fill in the gap. Become the shining light. Then all the shadows disappear, and darkness becomes removed. Even though nothing was removed, you only lit up the space with your presence. And Jade Monique, you had asked a few minutes ago, what do I suggest for someone who has terrible fear and anxiety regarding losing their parents? I would love them dearly now while we have the chance. Therefore, if the time may come where you have to grieve, you are reassured by the fact that you already started your grieving process. You did everything that you could have while they were present in your life. There is no worry about having done more, no shoulda, coulda, wouldas. If you are worried about losing something, then that means the time you have now is precious. If the time you have now is precious, then give all the love that you can to it. And that's the most you can do. Mr. Astrolabe, you shared as well that the way you see it is that perfection exists, and that's why there is suffering, because we're not at it. I love that. And incidentally, that gives meaning to the suffering. It shows that there is a clear direction that we're moving towards, and the suffering is proof of that potential, giving you an opportunity to work towards that goal. And Proper Mike, you had asked if I'd ever read any books by Eckhart Tolle. I have not, but I have listened to some lectures by him. And no, Mr. Astrolabe, I didn't see the new Karma movie. There was a lot of action. Oh. You really set up that joke well. Thank you. KD. You had asked, do I have any advice for people struggling with physical pain? Sometimes I find that instead of trying to avoid the pain, which is a totally valid path to take, by the way, I'm not saying it's something you shouldn't do. However, there seems to be an emphasis on distracting yourself from the pain. What if you zoned in on it? What if you meditated on that pain? What can that pain teach you? What does it have to say? I have heard many stories of people meditating on their pain and discovering that after they gave their full attention to that pain, it went away, almost as if it was waiting to be understood rather than an enemy that was trying to fight with you, but a misunderstood friend patiently waiting. And Sky Guardian, you asked, what about overconsumption of yam lives? Sometimes they go on for 10 hours. Well, no one is ever expected to stay for the 10 hours. Not even myself. That's like a season of Netflix shows, isn't it? And hello, Dansuela. It is lovely to see you today as well. And thank you, Larissa, for your heart me a few moments ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Staff Wexel, for your 7 roses. Radhe or Radhe. And Wayne, thank you for your pair of roses. And thank you, John Simon, for your heart me. Jai Sitaram. And may you have a good rest of your day too, Zoe, if you're still here by now. Yippee! And Jarrett, thank you for your heart me. And Poutine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And that is right, Berry Water. That was a Poutine gift. Cranial Dag, always a good name. You ask if I feel the solar maximum. Well, I've been trying to maximize the time that I get in the sun's light, in our solar radiation. And because of the solar flare, which is more likely during the solar maximum, I did get to see the northern lights, which was a wonderful experience. So that much I can certainly speak upon. And thank you, Wayne, for another 8 roses from you and a heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hello, Pesto. You share that you can't watch because you have an exam tomorrow? Again. But you hope everyone is doing great. Well, thank you. I'm happy to echo your hopes for everyone here, and all the same back to you. I think it is a very powerful decision that you have made for tonight. Tonight is study, preparation, good austerity. Polakjek ASMR. You ask, if I were a fruit, what fruit would I be? I'd be a pineapple, so I could participate in the Leela, the divine play of Bikini Bottom, and be an abode for one of my favorite people, SpongeBob SquarePants. And thank you, Jared, for your stinging bee. Such a funny gift that is. I don't know who the bee is stinging. I hope not any of you. Magdalene, you share that you feel SpongeBob and I would be the best of friends. Thank you. I do very much identify with SpongeBob. Apple user, you ask, do people come to me in real life for similar questions? Sometimes my friends or family members, and I try to be a good friend and son or brother. But a lot of people have known me since I was a rascal, and so that image of me very much is still in their mind. Therefore, how can you ask a question to someone who you know has been a rascal in the past and experienced their tomfoolery firsthand? You all haven't experienced that. If you did, you probably wouldn't be asking me questions. And thank you, Wayne, for another finger heart. Hari Om Tat Sat. And that's very cool. Cranial Deg. I love all the cycles in our solar system. And Sky Guardian, you shared, there is a reason Mrs. Puff is scared of SpongeBob. You would not want to be friends with him. I think SpongeBob, he exemplifies the nature of a karma yogi. He is working but not for reward. Mr. Krabs never pays him. He never passes his driver's test. Come to think of it, that sounds a lot like me. I never passed my driver's test. And yet he continues at it. That's not something I've done though. I probably should try for my driver's test again. And thank you, It's All Legos, for your tiny diny. Yippee! And another good trait of SpongeBob, he never judges others. Even though Squidward is always being unkind to him, Plankton rampaging through him on his way to get the Krabby Patty secret formula, SpongeBob is always happy to see them. Recognizes the fact that they have so much potential in them, and that's all SpongeBob sees. He only sees the divine in them. Paramahansa SpongeBob. SpongeBob Ananda Swami Shri. And thank you, Nanya, for your heartbeat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Now these are very, very niche jokes I'm sharing. That's for sure. The overlap between those interested in the same area of spirituality I am and the SpongeBob knowledge is... Actually, I don't know. Maybe it is bigger than I think. Bruh, you think your life will never be the same? You never thought of this? And yet, he knows his Dharma, even though he has so much love for Plankton, as every other creature in Bikini Bottom. Whenever Plankton is trying to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula, he makes sure that he protects it. Not because he wants to defeat Plankton, but because that's his Dharma. That's his righteous duty. We could go on, but I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. You think you will clip this segment out and upload it? That's awesome. This deserves its own playlist. We'll have to read from some SpongeBob stories. That'll be it. One of our next spiritual readings. Alright. Met its bitch. Now this is a new gift you sent me. 5 gimme the votes. I could definitely know more when it comes to what this is referring to. Give me the vote. Are you running for president, Mehed's Bidge? Thank you for 5 of them. And thank you for your paper crane and a heart me as well. Hari Om Tat Sat. SpongeBob Piranhas. I should write them. And you know what would be really funny? Is if after having enough Sanskrit knowledge, I wrote it in traditional Sanskrit too. People in 100,000 years would be studying the SpongeBob Purana in original Sanskrit, going, what the heck? Who is this? Who is this avatar who lives under the sea? What is this? Some unknown dissension of Vishnu? I think I might do that one day. And this begs the question, Apple user. What if religions are just old plays or TV shows from other tribes? And then someone thought to encapsulate the spiritual ideas in ritual, in story, in text. The Mahabharatam, that was actually a TV series from the previous Yuga cycle. Who knows? I'm sure in the infinitude of existence, in some parallel universe or previous universe, maybe it starts out like that. At first it is a story, then it becomes manifest. And Aquarius lady, thank you for your tiny. Yahoo! And thank you, Ginseng, for your applause. Yes, let's stay in this universe for now. And Ilya Kills, you share that you often come back to if there is a great divine spirit that we are all tapped into beyond religion. I love that idea. And ironically, I feel as though that is the truth that people arrive at through practicing many different religions. Not simultaneously, I mean individually. Hello, Sakiko. Welcome. Hello, Ellipses. You share that when you catch me, I make you fall asleep, and that is good because you have sleeping disorders. That means a lot to me to hear that, and I'm very grateful that you feel comfortable in this space to fall asleep. Sleep is definitely a very vulnerable time. I mean, if you think evolutionary wise, in ancient times or prehistoric times, our ancestors, in order to sleep, we'd have to be crossing our fingers that we wouldn't be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or some other animal of whom we are its prey. Although, for the most part, we can safely go to sleep and wake up unharmed, perhaps there is a part of our being that still has yet to move on from those impressions left in us. Having a safe place to fall asleep is often something we take for granted. And thank you, Jarrett, for your bubble tea and poutine. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Jos, thank you for your subscription. It means a lot to me as well to know that this community is something worthwhile for you, and I'm happy to connect with you in any way I can. Radhe Radhe. Sky Guardian, you recommend that we read from another section of the Vachanam Rut. Let us do so. As many of you know, this is a collection of discourses by Swami Narayan, whom is the incarnation of divinity that Pramukh Swami Maharaj, for example, worshipped, as we have been reading. Today we are reading Gadhada 134, Setting the World in Motion. I look forward to this section. Oftentimes it includes some rather philosophical and complex Sanskrit words that I may not always be able to translate, but I hope that there are nuggets of wisdom that I may be able to convey as we read this. On the morning of Posh Vadhi the 11th, Samvat 1876, or in our calendar, the 11th of January 1820, Swami Narayan, here addressed as Shriji Maharaj, was sitting facing south on a large decorated cot on the veranda outside the west-facing rooms of Dada Kachor's Darbar in Gadhada. He was wearing a white case and had covered himself with a thick white cotton cloth. He had also tied a white pag around his head and was wearing garlands of flowers as well. Tassels of flowers and silken threads were dangling from his pag, and bunches of flowers had also been placed upon both of his ears. At that time, some munis were singing devotional songs to the accompaniment of musical instruments, while other munis, as well as satsangis, participants of this spiritual gathering from various places, had gathered before him in an assembly. Then Shriji Maharaj said, "Please stop the devotional songs and begin a question-answer dialogue." Thereupon, Brahmanand Swami asked, "God is the haven of all bliss, and he transcends everything. Yet, the jiva's vritti, the individual's focus, does not become attached to him. Instead, its vritti become attached to worldly objects that are worthless and perishable. What is the reason for this?" It's a good question. If that supreme source is the goal, why are we not concentrated on attaining that? Why are we so focused with attaining perishable things? Muktananda Swami attempted to give an answer, but he was unable to do so satisfactorily. So, Shriji Maharaj said, "Please listen as I answer that question. Since the day God created this world, He has set in motion in such a manner that He will not have to toil again. In fact, He has devised it in such a way that procreation occurs automatically. For example, men naturally develop affection for women. Women naturally develop affection for men. And both naturally develop affection for their offspring. That is God's Maya, material or even illusory existence, in the form of affection. The vritti, concentration or aspiration of one who is not swept away by the flow of that Maya, remains focused on the form of God. So, a devotee of God develops Vairagya, dispassion, by maintaining an aversion for worldly objects. Furthermore, knowing God to be absolutely blissful, they keep their vritti focused on God. If, however, one does not cultivate Vairagya towards worldly objects and becomes distant from the form of God, then even great muktas, liberated beings such as Shiva, the destroyer, Brahma, the creator, Narada, the yogi, the guru of the devas, Deva Rishi Narada, would be swept away by those worldly objects. For this reason, if one forsakes God and keeps the company of worldly objects, then one's vritti will most certainly become attached to those worldly objects. Therefore, devotees of God should not keep affection for anything other than God. Thereafter, Sriji Maharaj said, "Now it is Muktanand Swami's turn to ask a question, so please ask." Muktananda Swami then asked, "It is extremely difficult for a person to attain God. Moreover, there is no greater benefit and no greater bliss than attaining God. Why then do people forsake such immense bliss and strive agonizingly for worthless objects?" That is the question. Quite the question. Sriji Maharaj said, "Here, I shall answer that. When one ignores the injunctions of God and begins to stray away from them, they suffer. On the other hand, if one acts according to those injunctions, one will experience the true bliss of God. So, in fact, one suffers only to the extent that one transgresses the injunctions of that source, God. Therefore, renunciants should live according to the injunctions that have been prescribed for renunciants, and householders should live accordingly to the injunctions that have been prescribed for householders. One suffers to the extent that one lapses in observing these injunctions. Only when a renunciant observes eightfold renunciation of people whom they are attracted to is their vow of Brahmacharya, which is difficult to translate, not literally. Literally it means the way or the path of God. Brahma, God, Charya, path. But it's used in the context of celibacy. But celibacy isn't quite a word that fits also, because here in the West, in English, that comes with an idea that it's some kind of rule that you must follow, or else. Or it's simply a kind of abstinence where you refrain. But Brahmacharya is more about devoting one's energies towards the path of God. It is something that you can follow for your own spiritual acceleration. I'll repeat that last sentence. Only when a renunciant observes eightfold renunciation of people whom they are attracted to is their vow of Brahmacharya considered complete. They suffer to the extent that they deviate from this. Brahmacharya has also been prescribed for householders. For them, Brahmacharya constitutes shunning all those whom they are attracted to, except, of course, to their partner, abstinence from sexual relations with their partner on days of observance, and engaging in such relations only during appropriate times. Whosoever deviates from these and the other niyamas, which are things one should not do, that have been prescribed for renunciants and householders, suffers accordingly. Therefore, the happiness and misery experienced by a non-believer is determined by their own karmas, by their own actions. As for a devotee of God, whatever misery they suffer is due to negligence in observing God's injunctions for the sake of worthless objects, and whatever happiness they do experience is a result of following the injunctions of that source, God. Alright, that is the end of Gadhada 134, setting the world in motion. There are some lovely points about the fact that we often have attachment to worldly objects because the world has been set in motion so that procreation happens automatically, and various desires are associated with this. However, for a spiritual aspirant, one develops a kind of Vairagya, dispassion towards these, and the practice of Brahmacharya can be an exceptionally powerful toolkit on your way to association of the divine. So again, thank you all for listening, and if anyone had any questions about that, although I am certainly no expert, we are welcome to open up lines of inquiry about that. Otherwise, we'll return to our regular segment. And thank you, It's Law Goggles, for your 21 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Rebkor, thank you for your heartbeat that you sent as I read. Jai Sitaram. And Vince of York, thank you for your heartbeat. And thank you, Esther, for your rose as well. Sounds like we got a lot of questions on celibacy and sexuality, which we can dive into with a lot of respect and care, since it is a very sensitive topic for many people, especially here in the West, but all over the world, namely. Ilya Kills, you had asked, what is the best way to step into this state? If any advice, you're so curious. And what state is that, my dear? Solid, liquid, gas, plasma, quark gluon, plasma. Not a state of matter, state of consciousness. Lutreyas, you ask, is celibacy a type of loyalty then? For householders? Absolutely, yeah. And it goes further than that, of course. It also means that you do not view your own partner as an object of sex, that they are so much more than that. Of course, sexuality can be a beautiful thing. It is the reason why all of us exist to this day. Without such, there would be no mothers, no fathers, no daughters, no sons. So we can respect our partner as the mother or father of our child, absolutely. But we do not view them as the reason I become gratified. They are not. Their role is so much more than just sensual service. That's one aspect of Brahmacharya for householders. And Aaron, you share that you sent something that I'll have to scroll up to see. Let me try to find it. I don't appear to see it, unfortunately. But if you wouldn't mind typing it again, I'd be happy to address it. And Talon, you also asked, is the celibacy like monogamy or abstaining for spiritual enlightenment? In general, the practice of Brahmacharya is all about redirecting the sexual energies. It is said in scripture, I am sure the science is definitely more complicated than this, that for 40 drops of blood, 1 drop of seminal fluid is produced. I'm not exactly sure what the equivalent of this is for women or those with ovaries, because of course you are born with all of your ovums. But nonetheless, there still is a great release of energy during the climax of having such an experience, and that energy has to go somewhere, and therefore it also has to come from somewhere. That's the energy that creates life, is it not? It is from that energy that a new being is put into this world. So you can either raise a form of life, or you can raise that energy within your own life. Isn't it so? I've heard people say that when Kundalini is awakened, you can either give birth to a spiritual child or undergo a kind of spiritual rebirth yourself. So either you're externalizing that in the form of a new being, or you're internalizing that energy in the form of a new beingness within yourself. However, the sexual energy is distinct from Kundalini, I will note. They are related, of course. But the energy I'm talking about is something called Ojas. Ojas is the energy that is cultivated through Brahmacharya. And thank you, Mount St. Godel Organics, for your fruit friends. Jai Sitaram. Alright, Ilya Kills, you share. The state you were talking about was celibacy. Like, once you're celibate, what's the best way to go about it? Or, advice or pro tips, that's all. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, the more you learn about lives from great Brahmacharis, which are people who are successful in Brahmacharya, that is enough to keep the temptations away. Let me put it like that. If you do feel those temptations arising, which are natural, of course, not something to necessarily repress, and that's something that we should always keep in mind when discussing this. For example, the only familiarity one might have with this concept, the closest thing we have in our society is the idea of chastity, for example, in our Western religions. And from that concept, you might get the idea that it's something that you shouldn't have, like it's a bad thing to have these urges. It's a temptation that you should actively avoid. But this is different in that nothing bad's going to happen to you if you do engage in it. There's just a benefit spiritually that you can use if you're interested. And you just stop getting the benefit when you stop practicing it. So you could look at it that way. Instead of your baseline being here, and then you drop when you engage in it. No, your baseline's here, and when you do engage in it, then it increases. So there's no punishment for not. That kind of sentiment is not something you have to worry about. But when there is a temptation that arises, you keep that in mind. You go, okay, here it is. There is that very natural human feeling. Nothing wrong with that. I could choose to engage in it if I wanted to, but, maybe I can bring my attention to something higher right now, bring out that potential, and then it will go away. Swami Sivananda would say, if it's an overwhelming idea to take the vow of Brahmacharya, just do it for, 1 month, which some people do. They call it November. I'm sure you know. And then if that goes well, you can extend it to a few months. Usually it just takes a few months to a year for it to go away. And then suddenly you're spiritually charged. And they say by year 12, after 12 years of practicing Brahmacharya, you will realize God. So they say. That is the power of redirecting your sexual energies. 12 years, you will realize God. Plus or minus. But Brahmacharya is more than just what you engage in physically. It's also what you engage in mentally as well. It's more important to engage in it mentally. And thank you, Bobby So, for your quartet of finger hearts. Hari Om Tat Sat. Now, naturally, of course, a lot of careful deliberation is required, given our culture that is almost built on this urge. So it's quite alright if this is not something that's easy to grapple with. Don't worry. And good night, Chloe Evans. Lutz Reyes, you ask, what is my point of view about young people having terror in having children today? I think, well, there's going to be a lot of fear in having children, absolutely. Even if the world were a perfect place, all of the life changes that would have to happen and you'd be committed to, it's a big responsibility. Naturally, I think any rational person is going to have fears when it comes to raising a child. If the mind is focused on considerable conflict that exists in the world, then that fear may be doubled in intensity or tripled due to the worry of how that may affect their own child. And that's also very understandable. Hello, Fen. And hello, Ahava. And I like your idea for the grand finale, Sky Guardian. We'll do that. It may take some time till we get there, but I'll try to keep that in mind. You too, Hannah? Bobby So, thank you for your trio of finger hearts as well. Hariom Tatsa, and hello, Melinda. And Taylin, you ask, what do you mean by engage in mentally? Well, you could be a celibate physically your whole life, but mentally you're always thinking about it. Therefore, your energy is still being expended. So Brahmacharya includes both physical and mental. David, you ask if I've had any interesting dreams recently. Oh, every night. Let's see. Last night I was telling Sky Guardian I had a dream about Pramukh Swami Maharaj, actually. And he was very young in my dream. He maybe 40 or even late 30s. And people were calling him Bappa. I don't know if he was called that when he was so young, but such is the nature of dreams. And he was on a phone call with a devotee, and a devotee was trying to explain some problem to him, and Bappa was trying to understand, kept asking questions for clarifications, very insistent on making sure that he understood what the problem was before making any judgment on it. And thank you, Aquarius lady, for your hanging lights. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Fen, you share that you dreamt that you ran into me at a university and I gave you a hug. Well, that is a kind thing to do. That is a good dream, I hope. I hope it was a consensual hug, of course. Some people have their boundaries. And thank you, Auntie, for your trio of tiny dinies. A quartet of tiny dinies, in fact. Yippee! And for your rose, your rosa, and a quartet of roses. In addition, as well as a fire, I see. Radhe oh Radhe. And good night, Esther. Aw. And Anna, you had asked everyone if you've ever died in a dream. If yes, how did you feel? You know, we die in our dream every time we wake up. Isn't it so? When we wake up from our dreams, that whole dream identity dissolved. But just as we die in our dream, we are born back into the world. Reborn, in fact. S.K. Brown, you share that you're feeling low today because of something that happened at work. How do you find peace and happiness? By recognizing it to be a part of your eternal nature. You are allowed to be angry or sad or disappointed or whatever feelings that are arising within you. No combination of them will ever truly get you down, because your spirit is always up. Does this mean that you should look for the positive feelings and try to distract yourself from the negative ones? Not even. Because peace permeates the good as well as the bad. If you were merely doing your duties at work to the best of your abilities, which, by the way, is the only thing you can do, and have ever done, since each decision we make in each moment is based off our whole experience. Yes, some decisions lead to teachable moments. Some of them lead to more humility. But no moment can ever take away your peace. It's there. It might be behind all the other stuff, but it's there. Everyone is valid in the decisions they've made up to this point. This doesn't mean you have to keep making the same decisions. But in this moment, you are learning, you are processing, you are growing, And keeping that in mind can help you recognize that peace and happiness behind. And I love that point, Joshua. Mistakes are a part of growth. No need to be angry over them. And thank you for sharing that. Jennifer, you share that you find yourself on my platform quite a bit. You haven't followed yet, but you're intrigued. It's peaceful. And you know that's all I could ask for. Just you finding peacefulness here, that is enough for me. And you are always welcome here, regardless of if you follow me or not. That doesn't matter to me. Crossfires, you ask, do I lucid dream? I don't intentionally try to, if that's what you're asking. I definitely used to. I was always counting my fingers. Have you heard of this? It's a kind of reality checking, or read something and then read it again to see if it's the same, or you check the time. The technique that I'd use is I'd count my fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Not dreaming. If I ever counted 4 or 6 or 100, then there's a good chance I'm dreaming. Or I've been in some accident that I don't remember having. Or I was accidentally near Chernobyl, and because of the radiation, I grew 10 fingers. And it worked. In my dreams, I would count my fingers and I'd recognize that I was dreaming. But the problem for me is that I'd get too excited. Oh boy, I'm dreaming. Then I'd wake up. So I could never stay lucid for very long. And this would get me so frustrated. I'd wake up and go, no! I became so awake in my dream that I actually woke up. So there's a sweet spot where you're just aware enough to know it's a dream, but not enough to take you out of it. And that started happening to me when I gave up lucid dreaming. I'd go, oh yeah, this is a dream. But then I'd continue on with my dream dharma, my dream responsibilities. I'd be walking in a store, buying some milk and cereal. Oh right, this is a dream. Well, in that case, I'm getting this dream cereal, since I know that my dream wallet is infinite. Can I get that? Usually I reserve flying or other kind of spiritual powers when it's a bad dream. When there's people chasing me or something. Alright. But generally I don't feel the need to take control over the dream. I think dreams are entertaining by themselves. Talon, you share that you tried to count your fingers, but your dreams were too clever. For that, you always counted 5 on each. That's awesome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, must not be dreaming. Actually, your dreams are just very consistent. You'll have to count everything. Your toes, your fingers, the moles on your left arm. And thank you, Anna Lee, for your heartbeat. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Joshua, thank you for your ice cream cones. 5 of them. Simon Snow, you ask, what does it mean to not remember dreams or feel that you have any? And Jennifer, you ask, is there a reason you can never remember if you even dream at all? It's been years for you. No dreams. A simple test to see if you've been dreaming is you can check for the presence of REM sleep or the stage before that. If you feel like you're getting deep sleep, then maybe you're not dreaming. But usually when I talk to people about this, they say, I still feel tired when I wake up. Alright, that means your mind was still active. Something was going on in your subconscious. I've heard that some substances, like cannabis, can also lead to repressed ability to remember your dreams. It's not true for everyone. Also, if you're a very shallow sleeper, you might not dream as well. If you're just always on the cusp of sleep. But I think for most people, you just need exercise. What kind of exercise? Exercise in remembering. It's not that some people can just remember their dreams the day after. It's that window of opportunity, the moment you wake up, that you do have the opportunity to remember. And then you think through your dream, and now you've brought it to the conscious world, and now you can talk about it during that day. If you don't take that time just after you wake up, then during the day, you probably are not going to remember. Even for those who are good dream rememberers. I consider myself usually good at remembering my dreams, but if I don't take that opportunity in the morning to recount what happened, then I'm as good as anyone. I probably won't be able to recall my dream. It's very difficult to begin practicing this because it's a half-conscious, half-unconscious time where we're just waking up, we're just coming back to the world. Some of us, we throw ourselves on our feet and we start thinking about our responsibilities for the day, and therefore we don't get the time to think about our dreams. Some of us check our phone right away, and then all the dream thoughts, they subside as well. So you've got to set some time aside before you engage in any worldly things. And you got to remember to remember. That's hard as well. Oh yeah, that's right. I've been wanting to remember my dreams. Okay, what was I just dreaming about? Lex, you share that you're trying to journal as soon as you wake. That's a good practice. Does that work for you? How have you found that? And Greg RG, pardon me, you share that peeps that write dream journals do it right after waking. Tesla had ideas doing so. Indeed it does for you, Lex. Good to hear. Go leave. You'd love to play me in chess. You'll set my table. There's always the internet, if you're seriously considering it. You know, you are funny, Echo Leaf. What is it today? Tuesday? Echo Leaf likes me on Tuesdays. They don't like me on Wednesdays. Thursdays. You love me or you hate me, isn't it? Ryan Chills, thank you for your rose. Hariom Tatsa. Good balance, yeah. I respect it. It's like what Jesus said. Be hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out. Echo Leaf heard that and said, alright, on Tuesdays I'll be hot, Wednesdays I'll be cold, but there won't be a day where I'm lukewarm. Friday, I'm in love. Yeah, I missed that opportunity. Chess.com, this is a good chess website. I do like it. I also use lichess.org. I think it's a .org. G2 Infinity. You have a dream movie recommendation, Inception. You know what's so funny about that movie? Two things. One, I've never seen it because every time I try to watch it, I fall asleep. No joke. I've watched the first 20 minutes. How many times now? I don't know. I've never seen the rest of the movie because I'd fall asleep. Secondly, I have heard that there is one of those spinning tops in Inception. I don't know exactly because, again, I've never actually fully watched it. But I've heard that it helps you know if you're dreaming or not. That showed up at my door one day after I tried to watch it. Came in a little box, and I knew that it was a reference to Inception because it had Inception engraved on it. I have it somewhere. You could probably find it. That really messed with me. I was very confused. I don't remember ordering it. Maybe I ordered it while I was dreaming, while I was trying to watch it. I slept ordered it. And thank you, Dionysus, for your friendship necklace. Hariom Tat Sat. And thank you, OPNG, for your heartbeat. You share that. Instead of watching a dream movie, I actually just dream. Seems like that. Instead of watching the dream movie, I dream about the movie. Shreen Dingo, what is it you share? Allow me to scroll up. You had mentioned the word journal with a pair of question marks. I assume this is about dream journaling, which is a great thing to do. You also asked, what do I write in the morning when not remembering our dreams? That's a good question. You could ask how you feel you slept. Therefore, it still gets you into the same space where you're bringing your mind back to the time that you were just a moment ago in sleep. Maybe you could write about a thought that kept you up at night, or something that you did when you woke up in the middle of the night. You could write about that. I was tossing and turning. I went to the bathroom 3 times, but I did have a deep sleep. I feel well rested. Yeah, you could write about the feeling that you woke up with. And maybe that will lead you back into your dreams. No, you ask, do I have a bad day? Of course. Everyone is subject to good days and bad days. Absolutely. And thank you, Louisa, for your rose and ice cream cone. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Zealot, thank you for your octet of cloud breads, as always. Even the Buddha had bad days, says Joshua Nye. Indeed. And the Buddha had some very bad days. Whereas other central figures of religion might have epic stories of their death, like the Christ and his crucifixion. You know, the Buddha died of a real bad tummy ache. No joke. It's almost funny. It's a little funny. The story goes that someone had offered him a meal, and it had some tainted pork in it. And when it hit his digestive system, it started causing a lot of trouble. And he ended up passing away shortly after. And he told his bhikkhus, "Forgive the person who has gifted me this food. It's not their fault." He wanted to make that clear. Naturally, of course. I'm sure everyone would have said, "You killed the Buddha!" But the Buddha was very clear. It was not his fault. Actually, it was prophesied that that would happen. And there were warning signs too. But you could say that was a bad day for him. It was said that he was in great discomfort still while teaching the Dhamma. He was still abiding in peace, even though his body was definitely in great distress. You might try to imagine that he had the ability to distract himself really well, or to subdue the pain. But as the Buddhists will teach you, it's not about that. It's about holding space for the pain, but also so much more. That yes, your body or even your mind could be full of discomfort, and you allow it to be. You don't try to run away from it, you accept it. And there is a greater peace that comes with that. And thank you, Sad Sugar. For the music play, I've never seen that gift before. A music play. That's very interesting. Thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Trindigo, thank you for your rose a moment ago. I saw that you wrote something that, my mind is remembering. I'd like to scroll up to see again. You shared, where was it? That it feels sad while you are so sensitive and like a freaking antenna. You take in others' energy like they are yours. Yes, that is very understandable, and that is so human of you. I mean, it's deeply, deeply human. So many of us shut that out. We put a great deal in effort in not being like that, but it is our essential nature to empathize with others. However, as much of a blessing that is, it can be a great burden, especially when we feel like we have to process emotions that aren't ours. And that's the catch. We don't have to. You are allowed to be as sensitive as the biggest antenna in the world. That doesn't mean you have to listen to all the radio stations that you pick up on. You can choose which frequency band you want to listen to. And even while listening, you can choose if you resonate with that kind of music or pick another frequency band. Likewise, humans are mixed bags of feelings. You can feel their sadness, you can feel their anger, and if you want to feel those things, go for it. That can be a wonderful way of connecting with others. But there's also going to be other emotions at the same time. Maybe joy, peace, happiness, excitement, and give more energy to those emotions and resonate with them. You don't have to always be on the patrol for negative emotions in order for you to be whole. I know that sometimes, particularly as children, we might grow up to believe that if our parents aren't happy or our guardians, then that must mean something's wrong with me. But that's a trauma that can be healed. We can recognize the emotions of others without taking responsibility for them. We can always do our best to help those, but that's different from taking on the role of a healer. Healing can be done without the healing draining you, just by being more accepting of both them and yourself. And that's quite alright, Nick. You don't have to apologize for asking this. How late are my lives? Because you enjoy them. It generally differs. I don't give myself a defined stop point, but I usually go live for a few hours each night. Thank you, Isabella, for your little crown a moment ago also. Hari Om Tat Sat. And I love the way you put that, G to infinity. You cannot heal others. We guide them to heal themselves. So beautifully put. We validate them. Give them permission on behalf of themselves. You may heal in my presence. And good night, Marcy. And thank you, Usha, for your subscription. Usha, Usha, Usha. It's very satisfying to say your name. Thank you for your presence here. And I am committed to growing and learning with all of you. And do let me know in any way which I can be of better service to you. Passion Flower, you ask, may you know when I will go to India? Whenever they let me. As soon as I have all my travel documents in order, which probably will take me into August, hopefully. That's just my arbitrary date. You know, if I don't set one, then I'll never go. But it's likely to change, we'll see. There might be some way to get there earlier, which is better for me, or a little later, but you know, I'm aiming for as soon as feasible, really. And thank you, Saturnus, for your heartbeat. Jai Sitaram. Arshi, you ask, why are you feeling so sick these days? What can you do? Well, I may not know the circumstances in your life which is bringing the sickness to you, but I can say that while you are sick, you can be easy on yourself. Stress is perhaps the number one cause of sickness. It's almost funny. We used to think that stress was just something that a person felt. It was independent from their health. It can be healthy and under stress, or unhealthy and without stress. But scientific literature is coming to realize that actually stress is a huge factor of health, both mental and physical. In any way which you can be kinder to your body, to your mind, to unload unnecessary responsibilities. A wise person once said, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds," which I think is one of the best quotes ever. Sometimes we put so much effort into being consistent in some area of life that it takes over our whole life. And then what do we have to show from it? Other than all this stress and the effect on our body. And Jennifer, you share that you have such a stressful life. Just feel absolutely exhausted literally all the time. And you're not alone with that. There are many people who feel the same way. In the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very funny thing to reference, because it's a song, First and foremost, Gita means song. It was a song, and where was this song sung? On a battlefield. When? 5,000 years ago. If you're wondering what does this have to do with our conversation, now you understand why I think it's funny to reference this. Here, in this song, sung on a battlefield 5,000 years ago, the most profound answer on why stress exists and how to alleviate it was expressed. And what is that? Attachment to outcome. That is all. When we work with attached expectations to some reward or avoidance of punishment, for example, in our working culture, you have a boss. The boss has all these deadlines for you. You feel like, in order to be the best version of me, I must meet all these deadlines. I must get that pay raise. I must hit my quotas. The boss must like me. Or, as a student, my teacher must like me. I must get all my good grades. I have to get into college. What is the common theme behind all of these? The common theme is that none of that is in anybody's control. I have to achieve this, that, and the other. Yet outcomes are not what we're responsible for. So no wonder we stress when we get a bad grade, or someone doesn't like us, or we don't hit some deadline, because we've identified with something that is not us. We are not the ones who create the outcomes, the circumstances in our life. The universe does that for us. As long as you are doing what's in your capacity, that's all the universe cares for. And it is built into your very existence that if you are doing your best, and you know that you're doing your best, then regardless of the outcome, you won't be stressed. So a shift in understanding is what is required for being stress-free. Notice that it's not a shift in lifestyle. It's not a shift in behavior. It's not a shift in circumstance. Nothing external has to change for you to be stress-free. It is entirely an inward change. The change is on the level of perspective alone. That you see what you're doing already as enough. There may be higher things for you to achieve, and you are already working towards them. In this moment, you are enough. You still have all the same things to do. Nothing changes in your actions. It only changes how you expect them to go. There is no attachment for favorable outcomes and an aversion towards unfavorable outcomes, because you know that regardless of the circumstance, you are enough in each moment. Yes, you have insecurities, you have problems, challenges, things that you are working on. But it is not enough to be perfect. It is enough for you to be who you are. As you are growing, learning, healing right now. The best version of you isn't the one in the future. It's the one now, which is going towards the future. If you were to imagine, and I know this isn't exactly immediately feasible, but just go with me. Imagine this sunk in really deep. Wouldn't stress just vanish? And that goes to show that it is the mere understanding of this that will alleviate the stress. And that is entirely within your control. And thank you, Srindigo, for your rose a few minutes ago. And another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roses. Jai Sitaram. Doom Knight, you clarify. Would you then have no ambition? You would very much still have ambition. In fact, your ambition would increase. The only difference is that your ambition isn't weighed down by the baggage of expectation. Instead of expecting that good things have to come, you have faith that they are already on their way. Vanafly, thank you for your heartbeat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Some of you were wondering what the mantra we are doing tonight is. Today we are going to be doing a meditation. What will we be meditating upon? Is it the breath? A candle flame? Tonight we'll be meditating upon a play. We will be watching this play together. Just a 5-minute play. That'll be very exciting for you all, I think. And Romy, thank you for your rose a moment ago. Jai Sitaram. Taylin, you are wondering, why do I chant when I chant, and what does it mean? Why do I say it, and when I do? Jai Sitaram. Yes, you spelt it adequately. There are variations based on dialect and whatnot, but that is a correct rendition. I chant various mantras and salutations in Sanskrit towards my Ishta Devata and their variations. What is a mantra? Mantra is a sacred set of words often conveying a spiritual idea. I think it is more powerful for me to add a mantra to my gratitude to help show that as you show your generosity in unexpected ways, I am reminded that it goes towards my spiritual path and through me back to you all. Additionally, in the mantra, I also send my gratitude to the Divine for allowing this opportunity to arise. What is an Ishta Devata? It's a personal deity that you feel attracted to. For everyone, it's different. For example, if you're a Christian, there's a whole gamut that you can choose from. Some people, they prefer the form of baby Jesus. They say, all Jesus is good. But for me, baby Jesus just captures my heart. Other people prefer forms of him from different parts of his life. Some people are fully encaptured by the passion when he's on the crucifix. Other people say Jesus is great, but without his mother, where would he be? My Ishta Devata is Mother Mary, a form of the Divine Mother. I pray to her. That's just the form that captures some people's heart. Some people say it's not the Son that captures my heart, it's the Father. What does the Father look like? Well, that's the point. He doesn't. I prefer something a little more abstract. Some people pray to Spirit itself, the Holy Spirit. These are all Christian analogies. I use them because being in an English-speaking country, it's often the case that Christianity is the form of religious spirituality that we are most familiar with. But you can imagine across all cultures, there are so many different forms of the divine that capture your devotion. Some people prefer many different forms. I happen to prefer Radha and Krishna, the couple of them. I can't seem to separate the two. You can try to get the masculine without the feminine, but the feminine will just creep on up. You can try to get the feminine without the masculine, but the masculine will just creep on up. So, as a couple, as a pair, together they form my Ishta Devata. Therefore, many of the mantras that I do are addressed to them. Or their various other forms, like Jai Sita Ram was their past life. Just as we have past lives, also forms of God have past lives too. And the past life of Radha and Krishna was Sita and Rama. I hope that makes sense. And thank you, Passion Flower, for your dancing flower a few minutes ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Saturnus, thank you for your quintet of cheer you ups and your 37 team bracelets. Hari Om Tat Sat. And I like your question, Maya. I'll answer it, or at least give my experience with it in a moment. First, I thank Shrindigo for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roses. And heart emoji, fire emoji, thank you for your tiny diny a minute ago. Yahoo! And Xanax, thank you for your rose. And thank you, Azalaf, for your 7 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And I realize that I'm a little behind in extending my gratitude back to those who sent a gift. So I thank you for your patience and everyone else's. And Dionysus, thank you for your friendship necklace. And Rosa. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you. Heart emoji, fire emoji, for another 10 roses too. Radhe Radhe. Maya, you ask a question that often comes up in the Christian context. Why does Jesus must die to send the Holy Spirit? This puts into question the nature of an avatar. What is the purpose of a descension of God? In English, we have the word avatar, which comes from the Sanskrit avatarati, which means he descends or she descends. So an avatara is literally a descension. A descension of what? Of the Holy Spirit. The purpose of a descension of God going through suffering is so that the lessons they learn in experiencing that suffering is something that you can learn vicariously through them. For example, for a non-religious example, consider all of the stories. Any story, our favorite childhood movies, books, whatever. The protagonist goes through a lot of suffering, don't they? My goodness. You can't have a good story without the hero going on some crazy journey. And they go through such a journey so that we don't have to. That is why some people very passionately share, Jesus died for your sins. What does this mean? Is this some kind of IOU that we have to send the bill to him? That he did that so that we do this? Not that kind of way. It's that if we decide to read through the story, listen to the story, and identify, we put our sense of self in them, then as we go through the parables of the Christ, we come to understand what he understood. We come to know why, even while on the crucifix, he was forgiving those who were harming him. And that kind of knowledge is what saves one. The Christian tradition is all about salvation. How are we saved? We are saved in that way. That we could be going through suffering, but with the right kind of knowledge, we could still find that inner freedom. Fortunately, we don't have to suffer in the same way in order to come to that understanding. And that is the purpose of a descension of God, such as Jesus Christ. That his life carries a message, and we may learn through his life. You're very welcome. And thank you, Xanix, for your trio of ice cream cones. Thank you, Serenity Space, for your pair of roses, friendship necklace, and a tiny diny. Yippee! I agree, Linda. We can be saved by loving God. What is God? What is God? God is source. When you water a garden, do you take your eyedropper out and drop a drop of water on one leaf and the other and this one, all of the leaves individually? You can, but you don't have to. Someone tell me a better way. It's not a trick question. Instead of watering each leaf one by one, what can we do instead? I'm asking. The ground. Thank you, Kaylee. Yes. And you water the plant itself, says Linda. Water the soil. Water the roots. Good. A plant is an intelligent being. It might not be sentient in the way that we are, but there's a mechanism in it which is very clever. It takes the moisture in the soil and through capillary action brings it up to all the leaves. So by watering the soil or its roots, the plant itself takes care of all the leaves. Why wouldn't the same be true for our cosmic root, the source of all things? If we bring our love to that source, then there is an intelligence there. That intelligence may not be sentient in the same way as we are, but there's a clever mechanism which distributes that love to every leaflet, every soul, individually. So you don't have to bring your love here and there and there and this and that one by one. Like an eyedropper. Just bring your love to that oneness, and it goes everywhere. Echo Leaf, you were wondering, what is the Sanskrit word for God, Lord, etc.? There are many, but they differ substantially in meaning and usage, especially from English. In this context, by source, I mean Paramatman. There are generally three ways in which we refer to God: as Brahman, Paramatman, and Bhagavan. These are also similar to the Christian Trinity, but I'll just focus on the Sanskrit terms for now. Brahman refers to that all-pervasive God. Sometimes when we're talking about God, we mean Brahman. What we really mean is that which is everywhere. That which is within all things, where everything comes from, persists through, and returns to. You might also hear Brahman translated to Godhead. Sometimes we refrain from translating it as God because Well, God also can mean something more personal. And there's nothing personal about Brahman. That which is omnipresent is just this spacious medium containing everything. It's not like it has a face and a voice. That is where the other forms come in. If you think about the concept of Brahman long enough, you may come to realize that there's a very interesting consequence of that idea, that the source is within all things. You think about your own body, your own mind, personality. Well, these are things. Therefore, that source must also be within me. And that is where the second kind of God comes in. It's the same God, but viewed from a different perspective. That is Paramatma. Para means higher. Atma means self. Paramatma means the higher self. If there is a source, and that source is all-pervading, then the part of the source that is within me, that's my higher self. Lastly, because all beings have a part in them that is their higher self, which is the same self because it's the one Brahman, all-pervading, those which particularly exemplify that higher self, that is to say, their lower self isn't there anymore. They've put it aside, and they let the higher self express itself directly. We call such beings Bhagavan. They are an avatar, a descension, because that higher self, that is Brahman, has descended through them, and their lower self, which is like the door restricting their entry, has opened. They come through. Thus, it is possible to look at a person and feel like you're talking to God. Not because the person is God, but because their higher self is God. And their lower self has stepped away, and so there's no ego there. You're no longer talking to the ego. The doorway is open to Brahman. But the doorway itself, the body, the personality, that by itself is not God. So, in the analogy of watering the roots and having the water be distributed to all of the leaflets, similarly, having love for your source distributes it everywhere. Which form of God are we talking about here? We are talking about Paramatma. Because you can love that omnipresent spaciousness all you want, but it has no ear to hear you. On the other side of things, you could love your Ishtadeva all you want. You could go home and give all your love to the form of Bhagavan. But that form itself is not going to get up and start loving everyone. Therefore, it is Paramatma which you should love. The higher self within all beings. And then that love gets to all the places that it needs to go. You send one love. I don't know what the unit is of love. A love on. Quantum mechanics, they just slap an on at the end of it. An electron, a lepton, a fermion, a boson, a photon, gluon, a love on. As you share love with that beingness within one person. They share that love with the next, and then it distributes everywhere. This was a long parable, hey? One love is a Jamaican saying, isn't it? Yeah. It is on. I like that. And thank you, Dionysus, for your trio of finger hearts and a hat and mustache a minute ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And yes. Thank you, Serenity Space, for your pair of roses, your friendship necklace, and your tiny diny. Yippee! I am laughing, not at you, Echo Leaf, but with the idea that all the Buddhists are rolling in their graves whenever the concept of the self or God is brought up. But I hope at the very least you resonate with that point, that when it does come to this idea of the self or God, the main takeaway is that the love should be given to all sentient beings. And I think that is something that a Buddhist would resonate with. And Imp Kitty, thank you for your tiny diny a few minutes ago. Yippee! You wonder if Pema has a good passage on this? Maybe. We shall see. Why don't we crack open the pocket Pema Chodron? But I'll do so in just a moment. There are some generous tokens of your appreciation that I would like to acknowledge. Like MJ, who sent a trio of finger hearts. Radhe Radhe. And Southern Unique Jewelry Company. Thank you for your ski goggles, your donut, a tiny diny, yahoo! Your rose, your pair of TikToks, your quartet of ice cream cones, and a fire. Hari Om Tat Sat. Mayonnaise manner. If the music is too loud, I will gladly turn it down for you. I do have it all the way up today, which I usually try to turn down. So let me do so for you. Thank you for reminding me. And Dionysus, I appreciate you. Thank you, Imp Kitty, for your heart me as well. Radhe Radhe. And Isabella, thank you for your rose. And thank you, Lydia, for your rose as well. And Star Bunny, thank you for your ice cream cone. Jai Sita Ram. It's time to land the plane. That's funny. Speaking of planes, Shabadi, I am not sure if I can name a plane for you, as there are so many. How about the Red Baron, whatever plane they like to fly? I don't know the name of it off my top of my head. And Maria del Pilar, thank you for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Xanix, thank you for your rosa. Jai Sitaram. Don't follow me, says Echo Leaf. Is that why you're following me? I just had to check. And thank you, MJ, for your hand hearts. Radhe Radhe. And Katie, thank you for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. And Joanna, thank you for your heart me, team bracelet, and a half dozen roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And thank you, Scott, for your rose. And little Seraph, thank you for your rose also. And just quickly before we dive into the Pema Chodron reading, Dalen, you are wondering for clarification. I say water the root, and by that do I mean spirituality as a whole, as I talk about the Christian God, as if I believe. Well, I do believe. I also believe that the Christian God is more than just Christian. As if there is a God, it's the same God in all religion. Therefore, I do speak more generally, but I use Christian analogies probably because you all are more familiar with them, given our likely Western context here on TikTok. I hope that makes sense. Without further ado, let us read from a short section from the pocket Pema Chodron. She is a lovely Buddhist nun, and 108 excerpts from many of her written works has been collated here. Let's see which one we have not read yet. Let us read number 4. That right here is a good place to start. Start where you are. This is very important. Meditation practice is not about later, when you get it all together and you're this person you really respect. You may be the most violent person in the world. That's a fine place to start. That's a very rich place to start. Juicy, smelly. You might be the most depressed person in the world, the most addicted person in the world, the most jealous person in the world. You might think that there are no others on the planet who hate themselves as much as you do. All of that is a good place to start. Just where you are, that's the place to start. And that's number 4. Right here is a good place to start. I like that. I thank Pema indirectly, and I thank all of you for listening with me. And Talon, you share. You've never met someone who actually thinks that. You've literally always thought that. You're so shook. Well, I'm very grateful to connect with you on that regard. And there are many like us, though we not we may not be the most vocal group, because hey, it doesn't sell well. People are going to watch the news when there's something they feel like they need to know on, whether it be a tragic accident or some negative event. People aren't going to read an article all about love and happiness, unless you're one of the crazy folk like us. It is rare in a sense to lean towards these things, but it is not as rare as you might think. It is just that us who do believe in equality, we also understand that there may not be any point in trying to change anyone else's mind. We know that silence can often be more powerful than getting loud about something. But sometimes that silence itself can be very loud. It can have a big message. And thank you, Astrid, for your heart me, friendship necklace, and 20 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. Yes, how about that landing? Let us begin to land. And Chris, you share the Red Baron is a German plane. Perhaps it was named after the Red Baron. That makes sense, if that's the case. Now let us begin to wrap things up for tonight. There are a few things that I'd love to do with you all just before we go. The first is a question of the day that I'd like to reflect on all of you. The second is a short reading from In Love at Ease. And then we're going to do a short 5-minute meditation on a play. It's not every day you get to meditate on a play, so this one I think will certainly capture your attention. But I've been very grateful this whole time for this whole audience and everyone's participation. My question of the day today for you all is, what is something you want to work on? Maybe it's a personal project. Maybe it's an insecurity. Maybe it's something you're already pretty good at, but you'd like to strive for excellence in. Perhaps it's an emotion. Perhaps it's your magnum opus, your degree, something in your community. Whatever it is, what do you want to work on? Mr. Mate, you share your anger. And anger is one of the most fruitful things to work on. Absolutely. And Xanax, you share your creativity itself. I like that. I had mentioned a creative project, but you're taking that one step further. And a creativity itself. That's beautiful. And Eric Richards. Indeed, there are no videos on my account. There used to be. Perhaps you know. But if you want a full explanation, one that goes into more detail than I may be able to provide here, in the link tree in my bio is a frequently asked questions document. You're welcome to read the story there. Dionysus, you share self-forgiveness. That is also a very fruitful thing to work on. Gregor G, you share your lucid dreaming capabilities. I like that. Talon, you share that's a hard one. That's alright. Take your time. Love makeup forever. You share makeup. Well, your username certainly checks out. That can be a wonderful way to express yourself. Astrid, you share. For you it is patience. Patience is a wonderful virtue. Echo Leaf, you recommend that I learn more Hinduism and Buddhism. That'll be what I'll work on. Thank you. John Oliver, you say, your procrastination. You know, there's an opportunity for a great joke there. I ask you what you want to work on, and then tomorrow you tell me your procrastination. Awareness, says Buddy. At the end of the day, that is all we have. Isabella, you share album. You are working on an album or want to? That is wonderful. Star Bunny, you share playing with your cat more. You sit around wondering. I feel the same way. Our little kitties, our pets in general, they only have so much time on this planet. We gotta love them as much as we can before they go and bother the next. Granting wishes, says Chris Morton. I love that. A wish maker. Sakura, you share that you want to work on being more productive, pushing yourself, not giving up. I love that. And the best way to do that is by balancing it with rest, forgiveness, and patience. Marcy, you also want to work on your forgiveness? Or, well, I think my mind read that for you. You said your argumentativeness, and I guess the solution is forgiveness. And Marcy, you also add your ability to let others be different and possibly wrong. That's a big one. All my best wishes to you. And Maya, you share quit smoking. That's a big one too. Very big. All my best wishes. Slytherin, you share cooking whole food recipes for toddlers. You are a nanny. Aw, that's so sweet. And I'm sure that the bodies of those growing toddlers will very much thank you for the nutrition and health. Kaylee, you share being more present. Allison, you share patience. MJ, you share acceptance. Eddie Cole, You share that you share healing and well-being. Small fries and a shake. You share self-love. That you are enough, says the happiest hippie. And indeed you are. And you are enough even in the fact that you don't believe that you're enough. Think about that. Being enough means that you also don't have to realize that you're enough. And what a marvelous paradox that is for the mind. Gloria, you want to work on why you're here. That is a beautiful answer. I love that, Gloria. And Talon, you share that you've decided on self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is a wonderful thing to work on. Joanna, you share impulsive anger. Ilya Kills, you share to get your nervous system regulated and healthy again. Self-compassion and or acting joy again. Allowing joy again. Sounds like you've got your work cut out for you then. Now there are so many wonderful things which you all are wanting to work on, which makes me happy because it goes to show how aware we are of our potential and the inspiration for becoming witness to the unfolding of that very unmanifest wonderfulness within ourselves. Say no to kale. You share nothing. You're perfect as you are. Good. Maybe a little humility wouldn't hurt though. I'm giving you a hard time. And the happiest hippie, thank you for your heart mate. And Dionysus, thank you for your donut. And thank you everyone for exploring my question of the day together. And Love Makeup Forever, thank you for your 9 roses. Jai Sitaram. Now, there are 2 more things I'd like to do with you all before we land the plane. First of all, I'd like to do a short reading with you, and then we'll be meditating on a play. Today we are reading another section from In Love, at Ease. This is a book about everyday spirituality with Pramukh Swami Maharaj, who was a previous guru and president to the BAPS Swami Narayan Sanstha. That is a very large Hindu denomination with millions of devotees, and they focus on service, especially to their surrounding community, humanitarian efforts, and loving devotion, especially towards their form of the divine, which is Swami Narayan, a great being in the turn of the 19th century. Today we are asking the question, who was Pramukh Swami Maharaj? Pramukh Swami Maharaj, from 1921 to 2016, the 5th spiritual successor of Bhagavad, Swami Narayan, who was from 1981 to 1830, was the spiritual and administrative head of the BAPS Swami Narayan Sanstha. He was a sadhu and later a guru who followed the vows of detachment and celibacy. He was best known among his followers for his kindness, wit, and attentiveness, evident in his response to every call, letter, email, and request for personal audience. He was best known among other Hindus for building traditional stone Hindu mandirs, temples or houses of worship, and the Swami Narayan Akshardham complexes, which are grand articulations of ancient Indian architecture. He was best known among non-Hindus for his humanitarian initiatives, including disaster relief and building schools and hospitals in India, Africa, North America, and Europe. He was best known to those he worked with for his clear directions and effective, effortless management of people's expectations and varying sensitivities. He was best known to people who considered him an adversary for listening to them, welcoming their feedback, and tolerating their aggression. He was best known to other religious leaders for his capacity to hold space for open dialogue. He was best known to world leaders and politicians for his desire for peace and unassuming directness. Finally, he was best known to the sadhus, spiritual aspirants, or monks. He initiated for his warmth, compassion, and simplicity. Whatever the range of experiences, Pramukh Swami Maharaj came to be known as an exemplary model of genuine and generous human interaction. And this one introduction preceded his physical presence around the globe. The external flurry of activity that constantly surrounded him had no impact on his internal tranquility. The numbers and data of his social contributions are thoroughly impressive. For him, the 1,100 mandirs and cultural centers he built, the 250,000 homes he visited in 15,000 towns and villages in 55 countries, the 5 million people he met through 3 million personal consultations, 500,000 phone consultations, 700,000 letters he responded to, the 4 hospitals and 25 health clinics, the 30 schools and hostels, 30 mobile healthcare facilities, 17 disaster relief efforts, 125 tribal villages he organized, social, spiritual, and educational activities for, and his felicitation by 40 heads of state and in 5 parliaments around the world, including the United Nations, were all just one thing, an articulation of his selfless love for the divine that resided in all of creation. It was service and submission. Swami Shri's complete lack of interest in the theatrics and pomp that followed him was clear in his unwavering bhakti, devotion to the divine. He traveled with the small murti form of his deity, Hare Krishna Maharaj Bhagwan Swami Narayan, which was his life and soul. Though he saw the divine in all those around him, Swami Shri exemplified the Hindu tradition. I almost lost my voice there. I could feel it going. You know, why don't I take a quick sip of water in case it fully goes? That's better. Though he saw the divine in all those around him, Swami Shri exemplified the Hindu tradition of Murti Puja, personal, human devotion to the divine expressed before a sacred image. Through his bhakti, devotion to Hare Krishna Maharaj, he always followed Hare Krishna Maharaj, whether it was entering a home preemptively, or let me rephrase that, whether it was before entering a home, giving advice, or even accepting an accolade from the Canadian Parliament. The Murti did not symbolize or represent God. It was God. He spoke to God, fed God, apologized to God, prayed to God, and submitted to God through this Murti of Hare Krishna Maharaj. This bhakti and its object of focus were Pramukh Swami Maharaj's strongest identity markers, and that is why he was best known to himself as a bhakta, a devotee, sadhu, and servant of the divine and the divine's creation. This is how he introduced himself and who he was most proud of being. Pramukh Swami Maharaj was born Shantilal to his parents, Motibhai Patel and Diwaliba Patel, in the small village of Chansad, about 15 kilometers from the central Gujarat cosmopolitan city of Vadodara, on the 7th of December, 1921. Young Shantilal was interested in spirituality and service from a young age, but he was also drawn towards sports. Cricket was his game of choice, and he took it quite seriously. Like spirituality, sport required commitment, discipline, and selflessness. Shantilal would help train his fellow players and organize tournaments. It was while he was preparing to purchase cricket equipment in a nearby village that he received a letter from his guru, Shastriji Maharaj, also known as Shastri Yagna Purush Das. The letter instructed him to leave home and prepare for initiation into monkhood. This was not the first time that his guru had spoken to him of renouncing home to serve society, but it was a clear injunction, and one to do so immediately. Shantilal left his cricket mates and headed home to seek his parents' permission. Brian McGuire, you are wondering, what does guru mean? Literally, it means heavy, as a Sanskrit word, but heavy in the sense of having gravitas, having a kind of weight, having importance, i.e., one who is important. But it can mystically be deconstructed into the syllable gu, which means darkness, and ru, which means dispeller of. So a guru is the one who dispels darkness, specifically the darkness of ignorance. So a spiritual master is ultimately what all these definitions are coming to. In a matter of minutes, a nearly 18-year-old Shantilal let go of all that he had held dear in life. He left behind his parents and siblings, village, education, and favorite pastime to submit to a spiritual master as an ordained sadhu and serve in the Hindu community. It was a lifelong promise of egalitarian service. The injunction was his guru's, and the decision to abide was his own. He was initiated as a sadhu named Shastri Narayan Swarup Das on the 10th of January 1940 in Gondal, Gujarat. At 24, Shantilal was instructed to take on the administrative duties of the BAPS Swami Narayan Mandir in Sarangpur. At 28, he was appointed as the Pramukh, the administrative head of the entire organization by his guru. It was this appointment that earned him the name Pramukh Swami, the president or principal Swami. Shastriji Maharaj passed away in May of 1951, and Pramukh Swami worked as the administrative head under the spiritual leadership of his second guru, Yogi Ji Maharaj. These 20 years were a delicate balance of duty as the head administrator and of submission to his guru as a bhakta. In brackets, the author notes, I touch upon this balance between leading and submitting in the last section of chapter 2. We're still on chapter 1. After Yogi Ji Maharaj's passing away in 1971, Swami Shri took on the administrative and spiritual leadership of BAPS until the 13th of August 2016. He led the BAPS Swami Narayan Sanstha for 66 years as its administrative head and 45 years as its spiritual and administrative head. These 6.5 decades can be seen as one of the fastest and hardiest growth periods, not only for BAPS, but for any Swami Narayan community, and arguably any Hindu community in modern times. Small note that I will mention, although the BAPS might be the most noteworthy tradition that stems from the teachings of Swami Narayan, there are others. Swami Shri's spirituality was the force behind this growth, a focus on people and the divine, over numbers and bylines. Here are a few of Swami Shri's major accomplishments in terms of quality and not quantity. In 1979, Swami Shri went with volunteers to Morbi to feed and provide shelter to several thousand Muslim residents before Eid, I'm not sure how to pronounce this word, after the Machu Morbi Dam failure. In 1981, Swami Shri initiated the first saffron-garbed sadhus from Dalit and tribal communities in any Swami Narayan order, and perhaps in any Hindu order. On the 7th of April, 1984, Swami Shri met with Pope John Paul II at the Vatican City to discuss interfaith dialogue and harmony. He made similar visits to promote dialogue with the chief rabbis of the Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jewish communities in Jerusalem. In 1999, and with the Islamic leaders of various Gulf nations in 1997. In 1985 and 1991, he organized month-long cultural festivals in London, England, and New Jersey, USA, to raise awareness about the different regional traditions of India. In 1988, Swami Shri was honored at the British and Canadian Parliaments for his humanitarian contributions through initiatives organized in rural and tribal India. In 1995, Swami Shri inaugurated the first traditional stone Hindu mandir outside of India in modern times in Neasden, London. Not sure how to pronounce that either. Neasden. In 2000, Swami Shri addressed world and religious leaders at the UN Millennium World Peace Summit on the timeless teachings of peace and harmony from the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Swami Narayan scriptures. In 2004, Swami Shri inaugurated the first traditional stone temples in North America, in Houston and Chicago. In 2005, Swami Shri inaugurated Swami Narayan Akshardham, New Delhi, as a mandir and cultural complex exhibiting India's heritage, culture and history to millions in the nation's capital. His creation of traditional stone architecture mandirs and Akshardham complexes in India and abroad not only contributed to the cultural, spiritual, and architectural landscapes of communities around the world, but they revived a lost art and provided a respectable livelihood to thousands of skilled artisans and stone carvers in Rajasthan and Gujarat. His engagement with religious and community leaders raised appreciation and awareness about Hindu communities and their practices in nations around the world. The awards, citations, and felicitations he received numbered in the thousands. But to him, they were just another means for him to act as a vehicle for his God, Guru, and the broader Hindu tradition and communities of faith. His genuine outreach to millions around the world was never to convert or impress, but rather to comfort and strengthen their faith in their own traditions and religions. The openings, inaugurations, and meetings he was required to attend continued at a rapid and frequent pace. It is no surprise that Professor Raymond Brady Williams referred to the Swami Narayan community as the new face of Hinduism in his first book in 1984. But numbers and accomplishments are not the subject of this book. The subject of this book is how, why, and for whom, and with what intent Swami Shri committed to lifelong service and selfless love. A closer look at his journey provides greater understanding of how he treaded his own spiritual path and helped others to do the same on their spiritual and worldly journeys. And we will look into the next section called Humanly Divine at another time, hopefully tomorrow. In the meantime, I thank you all for listening. You're very welcome, Dionysus. And hello, AOS. I like the way you put that. Kindness is its own reward. Thank you for your presence. And Ghost in the Shell, thank you for your rose you sent whilst I read. And Astrid, thank you for your octet of roses. As I mentioned previously, before we end today's session, I have a special meditation for the last 5 minutes. That being a play. This is a Hindu play which is performed by the same organization from the book, the BAPS, Swami Narayan Sanstha. It's a shadow play, or a light play. That is to say, it is formed by silhouettes. A big sheet is covering the stage, and the actors and actresses stand behind the sheet, illuminated by light, which is very metaphorical. And it's 5 minutes, as I said, so not long, in English, if I remember correctly. If not, there will be subtitles, but I'm pretty sure it's English. I have the name of the play. Here I can render it. That's not the right one. That's the mantra we were doing a few weeks ago. This is a story of Shravan Kumar from the Ramayana, which is a traditional epic, very long story that took place a long time ago. I think it's traditionally stated to have taken place tens to hundreds of thousands of years ago. So without further ado, I will be minimizing the background music that we've been listening to, and then I'll be putting on the play for us to meditate upon. And by meditate, I really just mean listening intently, watching, just as a child might, with an open heart, perhaps contemplating on the themes throughout. Thank you.
They couldn't see, only imagine. Their baby boy, they called me Shravan. They couldn't see, only imagine. Their baby boy, they called me Shravan. They may have been blind, but were one of a kind. All throughout my life, they stood by my side. They may have been blind, but were one of a kind. All throughout my life, they stood by my side. And I'll never know the sacrifices they made for me. Oh, so silently, giving up all their wants and needs, so I'd succeed. So I'd succeed.
Technical difficulties. Okay. That's quite alright. Let me try this again. One moment. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. And we only missed the first minute and a half. I think we'll just restart it for the sake of Sky Guardian's patience. So he doesn't have to edit it all together. All right. Let me just reintroduce it. We'll be listening to and watching a little play. A play from the Ramayana. Specifically, This is a story of Shravan, Kumar, and it is a shadow play, one performed by the BAPS, Swami Narayan Sanstha, and we'll be meditating upon it tonight for the next 5 minutes.
They couldn't see, only imagine. Their baby boy, they called me Shravan. They couldn't see, only imagine. Their baby boy, they called me Shravan. They may have been blind, but were one of a kind. All throughout my life, they stood by my side. They may have been blind, but were one of a kind. All throughout my life, they stood by my side. And I'll never know the sacrifices they made for me. Oh, so silently, giving up all their wants and needs, so I'd succeed, so I'd succeed. Son, we don't have long left to live. If only we could go on a pilgrimage. Son, we don't have long left to live. If only we could go on a pilgrimage. They had done so much for me, so I vowed to serve them unconditionally. They had done so much for me, so I vowed to serve them unconditionally. And I'll never know how hard it must have been to care at all. Oh, since I was born, what they have done for me, I realize it wasn't easy at all. In the temples they prayed wholeheartedly. The smiles on their faces I was pleased to see. In the temples they prayed wholeheartedly. The smiles on their faces I was pleased to see. So when they said, son, we are so thirsty, please, I rushed to the river, filling water on my knees. I rushed to the river, filling water on my knees. Ah, what was that? The pain is unbearable. Ah, what was that? The pain is unbearable. My parents are here, but too far I fear. My parents are here, but too far I fear. I'm mistaken as a deer. Oh, Mom and Dad, I can't move from here. And now I know how much they mean to me. Now I know how much they mean to me. This is my final wish. This is my final wish. My final plea. My parents are near, they can't see. Give them this water from parents are near, they can't see. Give them this water from me, just as they were there for me always. O King Dashrath, take good care when I'm away. O King Dashrath, take good care when I'm away.
Okay. Thank you for listening and watching, everyone. Very beautiful play, and that was part 1. We'll listen to part 2 tomorrow. So, there we saw and heard of Shravan, Kumar caring for their parents being blind, and in their later years, Shravan carried them over the shoulders with that, I forget the name for it, the stick with the baskets for a pilgrimage. And there, being thirsty, they went to go fetch some water, but a hunter mistook them for a deer. And there, bleeding, the king came and offered help, but Shravan said, "No, my parents are thirsty. Please bring them this water." Very beautifully. And it was Rama's father. Wow. That is very interesting. I didn't know that. That's cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Meanwhile, Kaibin, you were inquiring about the nature of karma. And as Gregor-ji was responding to, as well as psychedelic karma. Yes, literally, karma means doing or action. Now, of course, this is not exactly the context which we use the word karma here in English. We liken it to some kind of magical result of our actions, either good or bad, depending on the quality of them, right? And that does come from the original meaning, but it has been misinterpreted by no one's mistake, mind you. The point is to clarify, not to point out errors. I believe it's related to the Sanskrit verb karoti, which means to do, to act on. Karma means that which is acted out, the action itself. The reason it's important spiritually is because our actions is how we express ourselves. Therefore, it is important that we act in the right way. This might seem to imply the existence of right actions and wrong actions, but this is where our interpretation of it falters. There is no such thing as right action or wrong action in this context of what is right. What is meant by right action, karma yoga, is the intention to which the action is done, specifically one that is devoid of attachment to outcome. And as Gregor-ji said, this is all unfolded in chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. Why that chapter? Well, that's the chapter on karma yoga, which spells out the nature of right action, karma yoga. To be free of karma does not mean that you perform certain actions and not others. It means that you do all actions without attachment to outcome. So you're working not for the sake of a reward, And sometimes that reward can simply be the avoidance of a punishment. You know? Some people work for the sake of avoiding something they don't want. And that's your reward itself. But it is still an attachment to outcome. So when people are acting, performing actions, and they get a positive outcome, they call it good karma. And when it's a negative outcome, they call it bad karma. But the truth is that the action and the outcome are separate. The true karma is within the action. Specifically, whether you had reservations for what would come, what fruits would follow from these actions. If you are performing the actions for the sake of themselves, then for you, you are the same in both favorable and unfavorable outcomes. There is no binding karma. There is no bondage as a result of our attachments, our expectations to have something go a certain way. I hope that clarifies. But here, of course, I hope you see why this is related to the way which we use karma here in our English vocabulary. We use it relative to actions and the outcomes of actions, but no one's entirely sure what it means. But it's very clearly laid out in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Karma means action, and to be bounded to karma. How am I going to say this? To be binded to karma, to have bondage in your action, means that your action had some intention which is dependent on the outcome. But we should be free from this dependence. We should be independent of the outcome and work not for the sake of reward or avoidance of punishment. Now, thank you all for listening today in this wonderful Sangha and participating. And thank you, Abhikash, for your TikTok just a moment ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Astrid, thank you for another finger heart and pair of roses a few minutes ago. Jai Sitaram. And Pino Meow. Thank you for your music play and your friendship necklace. Jai Sitaram. And Inevitable. Thank you for your trio of roses. And good morning, Steve. And Mirdin, thank you for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Dawson, as well, for your pair of ice cream cones. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And with that, I bid you all farewell for tonight. As always, I will be uploading the recording of this live to my Yamsox Live's YouTube channel. Also, we have another YouTube channel, which is the ASMR YouTube channel. We've been reading through the Bhagavad Gita, which we just referenced. Chapter 3 is up there, all the way up to chapter 7 now. Many chapters there for you. And if you're just curious what the Bhagavad Gita even is, there's an introduction video there that just explains everything you'd ever want to know about the Bhagavad Gita without actually going into it yet. That's there for you. But the readings that we do here, as well as the meditations, Sky Guardian has volunteered to clip so he can send me to put on the Yamsox Live's YouTube channel. So those are the two YouTube channels that are related to what we do here, and they're both linked in the link tree in my bio. You're welcome to check it out. If not, no problem at all. Thought I'd just offer that piece of information to you. And thank you, Dalen. Sweet dreams, G to infinity. And good night, Steve. As always, may this be an offer to Sri Radha Krishna. May this be an offering, I should say. Like a lotus petal placed at their feet. Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Shyam Shyam, Radhe Radhe. And may you all have a beautiful rest of your present moment. Goodbye, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, in time and in space. Bye now.